Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you the things that you might not want to know about childbirth. If you're brand new here, my name is Erica. This little guy right here, his name is Theodore. He is almost 7 months old. I can't believe it. 7 months ago, I had a C-section, and then 3 years ago, I have a 3-year-old toddler named Hugo, and I had a vaginal birth with him. I did end up with a 4th-degree tear and a rectal tear. Lots of fun there, but I've had different childbirth experiences, and so I pulled from both of those. Obviously this video is subjective, it's just coming from my own experience. If there's anything that I don't mention that you want to add to the conversation, definitely leave that down in the comments below. Also, motherhood in this house looks chaotic. There's literally no angle in my house where there isn't toys, crayons, markers, clutter just somewhere. So welcome to my home. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable, and let's jump into it. Very first thing that you might not want to know about childbirth is everyone poops. Maybe that's a comfort to you. Everyone poops, everyone does it. And I know for me at least, I'm quite modest when it comes to anything that has to do with the bathroom, and just knowing that I was going to poop was just something that, like, okay, that's, you know, the last thing on my mind. Obviously, while I was giving birth to my first son, the very last thing I wanted to know was that I was not only experiencing these awful contractions and sweating and just like totally naked, I didn't also want to know that I was pooping at any point, right? Like while I was pushing, that's just not something that I ever wanted to come up. He's eating my head. If it's any solace to you, and something that I kept reminding myself was that doctors, nurses, midwives, doulas, anyone who is there witnessing and helping with your birth has more than likely seen it all. They've seen everything. So that made me feel a little bit better, knowing that, like, obviously what I was going through wasn't anything new. That being said, I did not want to know when I was pooping. I did not want to know if I pooped. I did not want anyone to tell me after childbirth that, like, oh, guess what, you pooped and we saw you poop. Like, no, just I definitely didn't want to know that. If that's something that you absolutely don't want to know, maybe it's worth writing in your birth plan. You can just write a little asterisk at the bottom. Don't tell me when and if I'm pooping, or hopefully no one will say anything and it'll just come and go. The next thing you might not want to know about childbirth is specific to C-sections, and I don't know, maybe specific to my situation. I'd be really interested to know if any of you guys have experienced the same, and that is there's a chance that you will be lying naked on the surgery table. I don't know if I was laying naked the entire time or just part of the time, but I do know that at one point I was lying there, and I think they were waiting for like the anesthesia to get, and they were cleaning me up and stuff, and my doctor said to me, like, oh, I know this is like, this must be really awkward, it's really weird, right, a little uncomfortable to just be like laying naked. And I was like, oh no, that's okay, like, you know, this is just part of the course, or whatever that saying is. And then it dawned on me, like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm just laying naked here. Like, I think my chest was covered, I think maybe the drape was up, but like I was just naked. So I kind of wish that I hadn't known that, because it like made the moment a little more uncomfortable than it needed to be. But neither here nor there, right? Like, you're giving birth to a child, you're welcoming a kid into the world. Like, I didn't care. But maybe something you don't want to know, you could ask your OB or your doctor beforehand what the protocols are, like if you will be naked at any point. But yeah, I just thought that that was an interesting one to include. The next one is specific to C-section as well, and something you might not want to know. Again, everyone's different, but this is that they are going to shave you. They are going to shave you down there to get you prepped and ready for surgery. It doesn't matter if you shave beforehand. It's possible that they'll just go over it again, just to prepare, because that's what I had done. I was like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, like beat the system, and I'll do it myself. And I think I just did it the night before or something, and then the nurse still came in the morning of my C-section and used like a big, remember it was like a big, was it an she had a small handheld razor, but I feel like she also had like a bigger handheld like electric razor. So there you go. It's possible that they'll shave you. There's part of me that like kind of wishes that I didn't know, but also I was glad that I could prepare mentally in advance. I think it's subjective. Next thing that you may not want to know about childbirth or while you are in the process of birthing a child, and this really applies to the whole laboring portion of childbirth, is how dilated you are. So how many centimeters dilated you are. And I mean, this is definitely a subjective one, because I know for me, like I was big when I was giving birth vaginally. I was big in knowing how far along I was. That being said, I know for a lot of women who are giving birth vaginally, they don't want to know how dilated they are, and they don't want a nurse or someone coming in every couple of hours to check them. One, because it's painful, but two, because mentally, if you have someone continuously coming into your room and telling you, oh, you're not progressing, you're not progressing, you're not progressing, that can just stress you out, and that is in turn going to make you not progress even more. So it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? So a lot of women and friends who I've talked to will actually write on their birth plan that they don't want cervical checks during labor, and that they don't want to be checked multiple times. Like they will specify when they want to be checked. It helps them mentally, so that they're not being told that they're not progressing every few hours. Ooh, what is in your mouth? They're not being told every few hours that they're not progressing. It just helps keep them a little bit more focused. That leads to the next one, which is sort of the same, and I've kind of mentioned, but it's that you may not want to know how little you've progressed. So that's also something you could put on your birth chart or birth plan. If you're not progressing as quickly as the hospital wants you to, you can specify in your birth plan, or if you have a doula, let your doula know that you don't want to be told that you're not progressing every hour or as quickly as they want you to be. You can specify on your birth plan that you don't want them to tell you that repeatedly that you're not progressing. Obviously, if there's a medical emergency or if the doctor is nervous or worried, that's a different circumstance. But what I'm talking about are just like regular reoccurring cervical checks and feeling like this overwhelming pressure that you are not progressing and like that you need to. You can eliminate that by even writing on your birth plan, if you have a doula or a support person there in the hospital with you, that if they do want to do cervical checks for whatever reason, they can tell that support person how you're progressing if they have to, and then that person can tell you if you want them to. It's just about creating an environment where you don't feel this immense pressure to perform, if you know what I mean, and that you don't feel overwhelmed by the numbers. Last thing you may not want to know about childbirth, or this one's something like you may not want to do, is you may not want to touch your baby's head as they are coming out of the birth canal. This one is really specific because it's something I experienced. So when I was giving birth vaginally to my first son, Hugo, I was pushing, and at one point he was crowning, and the midwife was like, he's right there, do you want to touch his head? Want to touch his head? And I remember saying, no, no, I don't want to. I ended up touching his head, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, no, I didn't, no, didn't want to do this. I touched it for a second, and I was like, great, like, let's get him out. Like, great, he's there, felt him, like, perfect, let's move forward. Looking back, I certainly don't regret not touching it more. It's, you know, to each his own, and not something that happens every day. But yeah, you might, just keep in mind, you might not want to touch your baby's head as they're crowning, and that's okay. It's fine. Alright guys, and that's everything that you might not want to know about childbirth. If you want to see another one for motherhood, babies, I don't know, leave it down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.